Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Emily and this is going to be the start of a new series of monthly coffee chat, catch up, just kind of life Q&A, and I'm very excited about this video. It is currently Saturday morning, February 22nd in Denver, Colorado. I've got my coffee right here in my little Disney Cinderella mug. I don't know if you can really tell, it says Cinderella right there. I am a big Disney fan. My husband Justin and I are going to Disney World really in like a week and a half, but we leave for Florida in a week. I'll tell you more about that at the end of this video. But I want this to just be a very casual feeling video, like we met up for coffee Saturday morning, or you came over to our house or our apartment for some coffee and we're just catching up, talking about life, or maybe on FaceTime or something. So that is very much the vibe of this video. I'm clearly in my robe, no makeup at all, barely brushed my hair. I did wash my face and brush my teeth for you guys, so you know, I'm really trying hard. But yeah, casual vibes. If you hear any squeaking, I am in our home office chair. They're gaming chairs. We're not gamers, but we just really wanted nice ergonomic chairs. So shout out to my sister and brother-in-law for getting us those for our wedding, which is so sweet. But I'm just gonna jump into some questions that you guys submitted, mostly on Instagram. If you aren't following me, I'll put it right here. And I occasionally will do little Q&A boxes for you guys to ask life questions, or sometimes like a video that has specific questions, like a first trimester vlog or things like that, where I just want to answer things that you guys are curious about. And I also will usually post that on the community page of my YouTube channel. So kind of some general themes of the questions that I got were pregnancy, of course. If you have not been following me in the past couple months, we are expecting a baby girl in July, mid-July. So I'm almost 20 weeks pregnant in a couple days. I'm like 19 and a half weeks right now. So I've been sharing a lot about that, especially on Instagram, and some fun videos here too. So got some pregnancy questions. We also got a lot of just moving, Colorado life, work kind of questions. Quick little recap, Justin and I moved to Colorado, the Denver area specifically, in, oh gosh, early August. So it's been almost 7 months, if I'm doing my math correctly, which is crazy. And we moved for my first nurse practitioner job. I work in women's health, at a holistic women's health and fertility clinic. I feel like I say that phrase all the time. So if you're a regular watcher, you're probably like, oh, we know what you do, Emily. But there are lots of new people here on Instagram and YouTube. So just giving a quick little refresher. Moved to Colorado from North Carolina. I'm from Texas. He's from upstate New York. So I've only ever lived in the South. Being in non-South and in really dry weather is very different. Real winters, lots of snow. We got like a foot of snow yesterday and now it's beautiful and sunny outside. As you can see from this window, it's like 50 degrees probably. So anyways, lots of transition there. And so a lot of y'all asked questions just about moving, making friends, all the things. So that's kind of a heads up on this video. And then towards the end, I think I'm going to talk about YouTube plans, and our upcoming Disney trip and just travel and stuff. So let's get into it. I feel like my hair is crazy. If you have been around for a bit, you know about the wolf cut, the infamous wolf cut from end of December. It looks a little crazy. We are growing it out and I feel like it's looking better, but those layers are still so short. And when I just wash my hair like I did last night and sleep on it, wake up in the morning with my natural hair, it's just like poofy and weirdly wavy, and I'll probably straighten it today just to have some control over my hair, but if it looks weird, you know, that's why. And then coffee I'm drinking. I would love if you guys are watching this to grab your favorite drink, your favorite soda, coffee, tea, water, whatever you want. I just have a Nespresso half-calf coffee pod in here because if you didn't know, the regular Nespresso pods have almost 200 milligrams of caffeine. Some of them. It depends on which ones you get, but I was feeling so jittery having those even before pregnancy, and then most of my first trimester and like into early second trimester, I just could not drink coffee. I had such a strong aversion, but I'm just now getting back over the past couple weeks into coffee. So I usually will have a cup a day or like half a cup, just kind of depending on how I'm feeling. So sipping on that with some whole milk mixed in. Okay, enough intro yapping. Let's get into the questions. So first question, I just organized them by category, is for pregnancy, what do your workouts look like now that you're in the second trimester? So this was from a friend on Instagram. And I have not been working out a ton of my pregnancy. I feel like my workout, just kind of fitness journey, has looked wildly different over the years. I had an eating disorder, anorexia specifically, and orthorexia in high school and college. And so that was like extreme exercise and took a long break from it. And then I've really just kind of found my love of like walking, strength training, some running. I did run a half marathon a few years ago, I think almost 3 years ago now, which is crazy, and some 5Ks and stuff. And I do really enjoy running, but I just hadn't done a lot of running this year. We were gonna run the Disney half marathon. That's why we were going to Disney this time of year, but we moved it for work stuff. I'll explain all that later. Long story short, I was running a little bit before pregnancy, like could run 3 miles kind of thing, which is a nice like base fitness goal in my mind. And then got pregnant at the end of October, realized we were pregnant early November. I was so tired, so fatigued. Go watch the first trimester vlog, I talk all about it and show you it. And had no motivation to work out. So really for 2 or 3 months, I barely worked out, like barely moved, honestly. It was, you know, lucky if I got out for a walk that day. And so now that I'm second trimester, I'm feeling a lot better, like so much more energy, just more motivation. But it's hard when you haven't been working out consistently for months. And so getting back into it is tricky. And then also while being pregnant, everything just feels different in your body. Like your ligaments are just looser. You have this hormone called relaxin. It's literally called relaxin that relaxes most things in your body, specifically ligaments, to prepare all the pelvic changes that need to happen for birth. And so it's beautiful and great, but you are more prone to injury. And so I'm trying to be really careful because of that and not start anything new. I was going to get back into running, but it just doesn't feel fun right now. And I'm having this new sciatica back pain lately. It's not anything major, but I'm just trying to be really, really careful because I have injured my knees before. So to answer this person's question, what I've been doing is like 4 times a week, I would say. I'll get up early before work and go on like a 30-minute walk on the treadmill at, you know, 3 to 3.5 miles per hour, very gentle, just enough to get my heart rate up a little bit. And then 2 to 4 times a week, in addition to that, I will do just some very light strength training. So just dumbbells for upper body arm workout, and then some squats, either body weight or with like a 20-pound weight or something. And then some machines in our gym. We have a really small gym at our apartment complex, and it's been like very gentle for sure. It's definitely not something where I'm profusely sweating. I'm also trying to be really careful about hydration this pregnancy because I have been having lots of moments of just lightheadedness. Even this morning I felt that way. Yeah, I could talk about that for a long time. So my workouts are very gentle right now, and that feels good. I will say it's hard when you've had previous seasons of being really in shape and just like hitting the gym 5 days a week with these intense workouts. And I had a season like that, I would say, I think it was summer 2022. This was leading up to when I met Justin later that year. And I got really into lifting. And I was telling some friends this recently this week. We were texting about workouts and stuff. I felt amazing, like doing walking and lifting. I feel like I looked super toned. I felt really strong and just energized. Like, it was awesome, and I definitely missed that, but I'm trying to remind myself that there's different seasons for different things. I'm pregnant right now. I need to focus on resting and growing a human and just maintaining basic fitness, you know, walking, strength training, opposite. That was awkward. First thing in the video and my camera dies. So I'm charging some batteries right now. It might be a little choppy because of that, and I literally just ordered more camera batteries. But I think what I was saying is my workouts are very gentle. I'm trying to give myself grace for just being in a different season and focusing on nourishing my body, resting well, just listening to my body, and still, of course, like challenging myself. And even though challenging myself feels like just getting up at 4:30 or 5 to go walk on the treadmill for a little bit before work feels like a big challenge right now. So I'm okay with that. And I know that come postpartum, depending on how I'm feeling, I can get back into fitness and all of that. So just trying to take it one season at a time. But yeah, definitely very gentle. I do want to incorporate more stretching and yoga. That is definitely a goal for the second half of pregnancy, considering we're almost at 20 weeks. So I'm going to look into doing that, maybe like a goal of 1 time a week or something. But that is kind of where we're at with fitness and pregnancy. All right, guys, just had a little like 20-30 minute intermission because the camera died again, but I think we're back in commission, so let's get back into it. The second question that's pregnancy related is, what resources have been helpful to you for pregnancy / childbirth / parenting, etc. LOL. This is actually a good friend of mine who asked, and I DM'd her when I saw this come through because nothing. I have consulted nothing. And honestly, I feel really good about that. So kind of my approach has been, obviously this pregnancy was very unexpected. If you did not know that, go back and watch the other pregnancy videos. The pregnancy Q&A go into that a lot. But I was not like consulting any pregnancy information or anything leading up to conceiving because we were not trying. But because I work in fertility, I literally work at a fertility clinic, I know so much when it comes to women's health, hormone balance, fertility, getting pregnant, pregnancy, all of that. I feel very equipped when it comes to pregnancy and childbirth because I also used to be a labor and delivery nurse and just have been a nurse for a while. I'm a nurse practitioner. I just like have the medical knowledge. And I also have a lot of friends who, even friends here, I'll get into the making friends in Colorado piece soon, that have recently had kids, who are pregnant, and that's been such a blessing because I feel like I could go to people in real life instead of people online or resources and stuff and just ask for their experience. And so I haven't been reading any books or blogs or videos or things like that. I did watch a lot of first trimester videos when I was just going through the thick of it, and that was more so for validation, just feeling like I wasn't crazy. But honestly, I think everyone's so different with this, right? Like some people just really find comfort in reading all the books about like parenting and childbirth prep and everything, especially if you're not a medical person. I think it's really helpful, but I almost feel like I have too much information in my brain just being in healthcare and working in women's health. It's just been my life for years. And that's not to say like it's not to be cocky or to say I know everything, because I certainly do not. I've never given birth before. I've watched a ton of births, but I've never gone through it myself. And I'll get into that in the next question about kind of like birth process, birth plan, like how I'm feeling and stuff. But I just want to be really open-handed about pregnancy, birth, parenting, all of that, because if I've learned anything from watching friends, family members, just people go through pregnancy, birth, having kids, raising kids in different stages, is that you really can't plan it and like plan the details of how it's going to go, whether it's sleeping or feeding or your birth plan. And I just want to be that mom that's like very surrendered and of course is proactive and like doing all the safe sleep things and like the best things for her baby. But I'm already a very like high strung, anxious, leaning type person. And I feel like for me, consulting too many resources would just stress me out instead of make me feel like freedom and surrender and excitement. And so I actually have not consulted really anything, and I actually feel really good about that. I think my approach is going to be, as problems and questions come up, I will find resources at that time. And so some things I'm already thinking about, like I have more questions and curiosity around postpartum. Like I know the physiology, but more so like infant sleeping and feeding and all of that. I have a good friend of mine who's a lactation consultant who's also a believer, and I've already texted her being like, give me all your tips, send me all the best breast pumps, like breastfeeding tips, all of that, because I feel like I know the basics but not the ins and outs. And I'd much rather ask my friend Jess than ask my Instagram followers. Like no offense to y'all or like YouTube subscribers, but I would just much rather talk to people I know in real life and can vet than get like inundated with so many recommendations. But obviously, like, you know, if anyone has a good resource, that's always great too. But there's just so many different opinions out there when it comes to literally everything. Well, everything in the world. Like everyone has their own opinions about everything, but especially things as like tender and sensitive as giving birth, and even like how to go about your pregnancy and how to like whether to sleep train or to not sleep train or to breastfeed or pump or formula feed or whatever, and parenting tips. And I just don't think there's a right and wrong to most of that stuff. Like obviously there's basics of like put your baby on its back to sleep, like basic health safety things, but I just really want to lean away from the black and white, because I'm such a black and white person with most things. Like I am very morally minded. I have very strong opinions and like convictions about a lot in my life. And it's nice to have an area of life where I don't put the pressure on myself to be so black and white about like, I have to have a fully natural birth and I have to breastfeed for 2 years and I have to co-sleep or room share or not do any of that or all these things, or gentle parent or not gentle parent. And I don't know. I know my opinions and like preferences on some of that stuff, but I've never given birth before. I've never had a kid. I've never raised kids. I've babysat and nannied, but that's so different from being a parent. And so I just want to take things like one day at a time as much as I can. And that feels very healthy for me. So that is my answer to that question. I will say the one resource that has been helpful with infant sleep, just like starting to read a little bit about that, is Taking Care of Babies. My coworker who has, oh gosh, I think he's almost 10 months old, has a 10-month-old baby. She really recommends that. And I really trust her recommendations. Like we have a good rapport and friendship. And so I really like what she has to share. And so that's been a cool blog. It's this pediatric sleep expert who gives kind of sample newborn sleep and wake times, because I just know nothing. Like, I know the basics of like how often newborns need to feed, but when it comes to how much they have to sleep and like for how long and just nap schedules and stuff, that has been really helpful for me. So I'll link that down below just to kind of start getting an idea. Not like every baby's gonna follow a schedule or anything, but just to kind of be aware of, okay, like I can roughly expect my kid to sleep about this much and, you know, maybe be awake this much, just to kind of, yeah, have a sense. So I hope that answers your question. And then the second question related to this, let me just double check my phone. Someone asked, like, what does it feel like giving birth? And are you excited? And I'm just gonna answer that from like a birth plan perspective, because I've never given birth before. I was an L&D nurse for, oh gosh, whoa, y'all, I just got very dizzy. Hey, Justin? Hey, Justin? Justin? Okay, I'm gonna pause this and get some electrolytes. I just got really lightheaded. Okay, sweet husband is getting water and an element right now. Pregnancy's crazy, you guys. I had a moment at work yesterday where I almost passed out watching an office hysteroscopy, which is a procedure that we're doing now in the office. Oh my gosh, I was crossing my legs in this chair. I wonder if it was that. I've literally had so much to eat today. I've been drinking water all morning. I have not worked out today. I don't know. We'll check in a second. Door. Thank you, love. Thank you. Okay, we've exchanged the coffee for a big Yeti with some electrolytes. I don't remember what I was saying. I think I was saying something about how I was a labor and delivery nurse for a brief period of time. And I've seen a lot of births. Yeah, what was I saying? Birth plan. Yeah. So I've never given birth before. I don't know how to answer that person's question, but I can say that similar to my answer about resources and like preparing for pregnancy, childbirth, you know, parenting, all of that, I also have a similar approach when it comes to birthing, and that is to not plan it. I know this is controversial. I know birth plans can be very empowering for people, especially if you have like a history of any trauma, whether it's like sexual related or just with previous births and whatnot, or like medical trauma. That is not my story. I'm really thankful for that. And I definitely have kind of an opposite story in that I tend to overplan things and become too like obsessive and all of that. And having thankfully been able to see a lot of births, whether they were beautiful natural births that totally went to plan or ones that ended up in an emergency C-section, I've seen a wide range of outcomes. And I'm trying to let go of fear, because I've seen a lot of really scary stuff when it comes to birth, because I worked on a high-risk labor and delivery unit, like super high risk. And I'm trying to just, again, like not take in too much information about birth. So I'm not someone who's going to be like asking for advice about birth or any of that. I definitely know the medicine and know what to expect. And I just want to be very open-handed. Like, I don't have a big birth plan. I know like we're going to be at a hospital with midwives, and I don't really have a strong preference if I have like a completely natural unmedicated birth or if I need an epidural. I know some people are just like so probably gonna be shocked by that, because I am a planner and am in women's health, but I just don't know how it's gonna be. And if you're having your first baby, like, you also don't know how it's gonna go and how your body's gonna tolerate labor and what you're gonna need in that moment. And I wanna be prepared for all the outcomes. And of course, I think the goal at the end of the day is a safe mom, healthy baby, like healthy mom, healthy baby. You know, we're all like alive and well. And that is my goal, and whatever needs to happen to get there is great. Obviously, I'm going to be advocating for myself, and I would like to avoid a C-section as much as possible. I would like to go as natural as possible, but at the same time, like natural in terms of like minimal medication. However, I don't know how I'm going to tolerate labor and birth, and I don't have the best pain tolerance in other things in my life, and I do have kind of a tendency to faint with certain things. And so I am very much okay if I get an epidural. Like, I'm kind of planning for that. I don't see that as a failure or anything. Like, I'm not necessarily trying to go natural. I think it's just like a nice idea in my head of like, yeah, that'd be great. Like, if I'm able to do it, that's awesome. Just like fewer complications. Like, there's so many benefits of having a natural unmedicated birth. But at the same time, I want my body to get whatever it needs. And if that's an epidural or if that's a C-section or induction or whatever, that's totally fine. I think my biggest preferences are to go into spontaneous labor, so to not be induced if possible. Like, obviously if there's something medically going on, like hypertension or diabetes or baby's too big or whatever, I'm okay with that. But I do think one of my strong opinions when it comes to labor and delivery is elective inductions are thrown around a lot. And I could talk about that a long time. I do not want to be electively induced. I only want to be medically induced if I have to be induced. So that is that's probably my strongest preference, that and breastfeeding. Obviously, don't know how that's going to go either, so I'm going to be open-handed about that as well, but I really, really want to be like trying to prioritize breastfeeding, whether it's exclusive breastfeeding or having pumping. I probably will pump in some capacity, just going back to work and all of that. So those are my thoughts. I hope that is helpful and maybe just gives peace to anyone who's watching this who's also pregnant or first-time mom and maybe feels intimidated by the internet, especially with so many loud voices of like, you have to go natural and have a home birth and all these things that are beautiful, but maybe that doesn't feel right for you. And I just want to remind you and encourage you that there's so many options out there and there's no right or wrong when it comes to giving birth to your child and sleeping and feeding and raising them and all of that. And obviously there's right and wrong when it comes to like, crazy things not to do, but anyways, you know what I'm saying. So I hope that encourages you all. Okay, kind of transitioning to other questions about like the move, Colorado, work, things like that. Someone asked best and worst parts about Colorado so far. I feel like I should have Justin come in here and answer this. Hey, Justin. No, I think he has headphones. He's trying to do some cleaning. I need to leave him alone. But best and worst parts. Okay, I feel like this depends on the season. We moved in August and it was beautiful. It was really warm and obviously like no humidity basically in the Denver area. We live in a desert climate. And it was great until like November, December, January when it got freezing and we've been in the thick of winter the past couple months. Also first trimester just made me feel miserable in Colorado, and so we're trying to give it a year to see like truly have a good perspective on how much we like the state or don't like the state. We have our days, our good days or bad days. We're like, we love Colorado, we're gonna stay here forever. And other days we're like, we need to move to Florida or somewhere tropical, very different climate just because we're sick of the cold. Best parts, let's see. It's gorgeous. It's just absolutely beautiful. If you've ever had the privilege of coming to Colorado, it is unlike any other state. I mean, being able to see the mountains and have such quick access to the mountains is amazing. There's literally the foothills, like the golden foothills are right behind me. You can't see it because of the lighting, but it literally are little snow-capped hills. And growing up in the South, you just don't get that. And it's been really, really special to be so close to such incredible nature. Other good things, I mean, if you are someone like me who's only ever lived in humid climate, sorry guys, not clients, it's really nice to be in a different climate. Like having the dryness has helped my skin and my hair. The winter time's a different story because I'm a little too dry and feel like everything's just peeling and flaking. But it's really nice. The summers are perfect. It can get up to, 80, 90, 100 degrees sometimes, but then in the evenings it's like 50s, 60s, I think. We only got a snippet of summer, so I'll have to let you know how I'm feeling this summer, especially being super pregnant, third trimester. But those are the main things. I feel like the people are really cool. Everyone here, at least in Denver, the vibe is kind of just very chill and laid back. There's definitely some hustle culture and just kind of like work hard on the weekends, play hard on the weekends. That's kind of a con, honestly, for me and Justin, because I feel like people just escape to the mountains every weekend and it's hard to nail down people for plans. And we are like sort of outdoorsy. He's more outdoorsy than me, but like generally athletic and like doing fun, adventurous things. But we're not the type to go like skiing every weekend and hiking every weekend and all of that. Like we really value having time at home to just chill and breathe and rest and sleep in. And so we don't match up with like kind of the average Denverite, if you will, who's working super hard during the week and then escaping the mountains on the weekends. And also pregnancy has really changed that, right? Because like I'm not able to ski or do winter sports and stuff. Like I don't even really know how to ski. I've only done it once growing up, so I'd have to totally relearn. Shout out to Lindy. We've talked about this a lot, ski instructor friend. But anyways, I feel like I'm just kind of rambling. A lot of my thoughts on Colorado are very like not good or bad. It's just kind of somewhere in the middle. Like we like it a lot. I feel like the people we've met have been mostly from our church, and I'll talk about like finding a church and stuff because someone asked about that. And that we love the people we've met. Like, everyone is really down to earth. And I feel like, especially when it comes to Christian community in the area, again, we've been here for like 6-7 months. We do not have like the end all be all opinion or thoughts on this, but what we've seen so far, I feel like it's very different from growing up in the South, where Christian culture, like just kind of cultural Christianity, is very prevalent. And that can be comforting because like the surrounding culture is generally more positive towards Christianity and religion, and then certain places aren't. It just really depends on like the people and the area and like the history and stuff. Denver is very, very secular, and so it doesn't feel like antagonistic towards Christians, but it's just like everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. Like, it's a very tolerant city. Just people generally like are not very religious at all. And something our church, one of our pastors, talks about is, I don't know where they got this stat from, but only apparently 2% of the city of Denver knows Jesus. And that's really sad to me. But at the same time, I was telling a friend this when we moved here, I feel like the people who we've met who are like all in on their faith are all in. Like, you can't really be a lukewarm Christian in this area. You're kind of like all in, or you're not all in at all, and you're like atheist, agnostic, spiritual, not interested. And again, it doesn't feel, at least to me, like this antagonism. I feel like certain other places I've lived, there's been kind of more like tension between like people who are Christian and who aren't, for a variety of reasons. I think sometimes cultural Christianity, like, it's not true Christianity, and so there's just can be that like weirdness and tension. I could talk about that for a long time, but I do feel like the people we've met here who are all in on their faith are truly all in, and that's been really refreshing, because in order to like be a thriving person of faith in this area, you really have to be all committed, because the surrounding culture is not Christian. So that kind of talks about like both church and also Denver. So that's something that I like but also don't like, just because, I mean, not that I don't like it, it's just different from what I'm used to. Like, there is something comforting about being in a place with like tons of churches, and like when you're in the South, like most people grew up Christian, and it's just like a part of the culture, and there is something really sweet about that, and that just doesn't feel like the case in Denver. So I feel like to be here, again, to like thrive in your faith, you really have to be all in. And so that's why we've really relied on our church and church community. Like, we've really plugged in, like, just went all in, like, you know, feet first, head first. I don't know what that analogy is supposed to be. Dove in, basically, to church, like our first weekend. So I can actually talk about that for a second, and then if I think of more pros and cons of Colorado, I'll get there. But I just feel like we haven't been here super long enough to answer the Colorado question really well. I feel like I'm very biased with just like not feeling great in pregnancy and winter, and I feel like I've had more negative feelings towards Colorado, which I don't think is a fair representation. But with finding a church, I feel like our story's very, very lucky and unique for someone who's moving to a brand new area. And especially like two people and not one. Like, you've got two opinions, but you know, Justin and I are very, very aligned in terms of just our faith and theology and what we're looking for. And we just were really lucky in that we had a lot of church recommendations from friends who have lived here, pastors, people who just knew people, and we knew the exact church we wanted to try out our first weekend. We moved, I think we flew here on a Sunday and then like moved in on a Monday, and so it was a whole week until we got to try a church. So it was like our 7th day, you know, of being here, the first Sunday. And that first Sunday, our church actually had a Connect class where they literally just take 2 hours, give you lunch, and go over everything, like all your questions, the history of the church, what they believe, what they're all about, like mission, vision, values, theology, like every area of the church organization, goals, vision, all of that. That was so helpful. Like, we left that, had pretty much all of our questions answered. We went and like said hi to the pastor and just like chatted with him for a little bit, one of the pastors. And that was so, so helpful. Like, it totally expedited our church hopping experience, and really was just like, check, 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 this is what we're looking for. And we didn't go to a single other church. We literally have only gone to the church that we've been at for the past 7 months, which is amazing. Okay, also had to change out the battery at that time. This is just a little chaotic video. But let me just look and see what that person asked specifically about church. They said, how did you find a church that fit y'all's beliefs/desires? I feel like I talked about that a little bit. Like, we really lucked out with just the timing of everything. We have not been to a single other church besides the one that we are at, and we felt really good about that decision. Like, we prayed about it and just kept going back week to week and realized, yeah, this is exactly where we want to be. This is where we feel like God's calling us. In terms of just like finding a church and all of that, I feel like this is so hard because we have such a consumeristic society, and it can be so easy to just like shop for the perfect church, especially if you've been in a church before that you've loved and you want to replicate. But I think if you're moving to a new city, it is really important to let go of any previous church community and like ideas of finding that again. Like Justin and I both had churches that we really loved in North Carolina, and they were like where we needed to be for that season. But even after leaving and moving from North Carolina, like we were looking for a lot of similarities, but even things that were a little different that would be better suited for us as a married couple and, you know, looking to start a family, and just, I don't know, like different spaces and opportunities. And I don't even know, like it's hard to get into all of that, but we were just looking for something like slightly different. And at the same time, it was hard to let go of some of the things that we loved. Like, for example, our church that we were going to back in North Carolina was a lot smaller, and I loved that because we felt like we got to know most people. Like, it felt very intimate, versus the church we're at now is probably 3 times as big as our church in Durham. And that was hard to get used to, but that's more of like a stylistic preference, in my opinion. Like, it's something, I'm trying to remember the sermon that one of our pastors at our church here said. It was about like choosing community and like church and stuff. And they were like, what is important to pay attention to is the quality of like the disciples that those churches making, and not, you know, like how if you like the worship music and if you like the aesthetic and, you know, the size and stuff. And of course, some people thrive better in bigger churches versus smaller churches, but there are little things like that that we, you know, would prefer a smaller church, and other things like that, and maybe like different variety of worship music and things. But that's not the stuff that matters at the end of the day. And what we've loved so much about our church is like the quality of teaching, like Bible-based sermons, like really, really strong teaching and theology, and amazing community and opportunities for service, and like commitment to serving the city and the nations and missions, and a heart of generosity, and like a commitment to discipleship, and like daily rhythms with the Lord, and really teaching that as a church community, and just all of that kind of stuff. Like, we saw so much fruit so early in this church. And we feel like we jumped in at a good time. Our church is, I think, 8 years old now. And so it's like an earlier, like younger church plant, but they're really, really well established and have just like very good systems in place. They're very organized. And that's something that has been so easy and so just wonderful about being new, is it's been so nice and simple to get plugged in. Like, we joined a community group, which is kind of their version of like weekly small groups. I also joined a women's Bible study, and doing both of those plus serving in the kids ministry has been the perfect kind of like 3-pronged approach to making friends. And I've made friends from each of those communities, and that's been so, so sweet. So I guess in terms of like how to find a church, I mean, word of mouth is great. Google. I definitely, when I've like looked for churches in other times in my life, have spent time, you know, on the church website, reading like their mission statement, their beliefs, making sure, you know, like the basics of theology, like we're aligned. Any church that you find, you're not going to agree 100% with every little nitty-gritty thing. I think the main thing is agreeing on the main things. And I really appreciated that our church actually went through this kind of tier system in that Connect class that I mentioned, where they just talk through like the church and what they believe and stuff. And they were kind of like, here are like tier 1 beliefs of like the Trinity and the resurrection and like basic Christian things. And tier 2 is more like baptism, like men and women in leadership, and other things that are like medium level beliefs that are like very important to the church, but are not like salvific, like salvation determinant beliefs. And then the third category was like things that are just kind of like up for disagreement, like the apocalypse, and like, is Genesis an allegory, and just all this kind of stuff that's more like people just kind of argue about all the time and no one has like a for sure conclusion on. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that was really helpful and even like healing for me to see a church kind of divide like level of importance of beliefs. And they were kind of like, these are the things that like are make a Christian, versus like these are the things that separate denominations, and then these are the things that we just like give charity and grace about. And of course, like, people can be a part of this church if they disagree on things like baptism and, you know, communion and all of that, but that like middle tier stuff was more the things that like their stances on those things and beliefs and convictions are really important to like the culture and heart of that church, and they were just, it's those things that they ask for people to like understand and be respectful of, and those are things that they don't like waver on, versus that third category is more things that are just kind of like up for discussion. So I think if your church that you're considering has a space like that you can go and learn about the church more and like go ask the pastors questions, like just taking advantage of those opportunities and getting to hear from the leadership themselves about what they believe, what they're all about, the story, the things they're passionate about. I think that's really, really helpful, instead of just relying on like the website or word of mouth or social media. Like that's only a bit, like bits and pieces of the whole story. And then my other recommendation would actually be to go back and listen to sermons if they have like a podcast or YouTube channel or log of old sermons. I did that specifically for certain issues that I really care about, especially things that intersect with my work and just like ethical stuff. I really wanted to know how they had preached on those topics. And so I went back and listened to those sermons and I was like, oh yeah, full send, this is great, like love this. So that helped me a lot, especially if you're coming into a church and they're in the middle of a sermon series where you're like, oh, you're not talking about like issues that I'm really passionate about or things happening in the world or whatever. It was cool to go back and, you know, listen to sermon series from beforehand and just kind of see how the church talks and like teaches about those topics. So that is what I would recommend there. I feel like this video is so long already. I'm so sorry. I forget how chatty I am. Like I know how chatty I am, but I was hoping to make this video like 20 minutes, but it might be twice as long. We'll see. Okay, how has your job been so far? Any unexpected joys in your position at the clinic? Okay, I have tried to be really careful in talking about work just because I want to like keep work and kind of hobbies, social media separate. My boss knows I have a YouTube channel. Our whole staff knows, it's not a secret. I disclosed that when we were doing my contract, but my job has been good. That was all to say, I just will probably be vague about work things because I really do want to keep that separate. And I have a little disclaimer at the bottom of, you know, description of all my videos now that anything I share is not reflective of like my job, my employer, company, anything like that. These, you know, opinions are my own. Job has been good. It's been hard. I feel like the past couple weeks I've been in a harder spot with work. Just we have a lot of transitions, like people leaving, people coming. We're in a big just like growth change kind of phase as a smaller clinic and company, and yeah, there's just been some stress at work, so that's all I'll say. So I feel like lately it has been harder, but I think we're going into a season at work that is going to be smoother is what I'll say. But in terms of the actual work and like the things I'm doing, patient care, I love it. I love, love, love getting to see patients for 30 minutes to an hour at a time. We are a very unique specialty clinic, and so we get to spend a lot of time with our patients, and I just adore that because I'm not someone who thrives in like an insurance-based practice where I have to see, you know, 30 to 40 patients a day, even like 20 patients. Honestly, I see 5 to 10 a day. So that is super nice. I feel like we operate more like a therapist who has like hour-long sessions with patients, and you know, we'll have a panel of like 8 patients that day or something. That's amazing, and I just love that. I feel like I can be more intentional and like slower paced and just really get to the root cause and like depth of things with patients. Like I had an annual exam for an hour with a patient the other day, and we talked about so much, just like her life and marriage and, you know, things that were bothering her, and I feel like we addressed like mental, emotional, spiritual, physical concerns, like all of it, and it was just so special. So that has been really awesome. It's definitely a learning curve as a new grad nurse practitioner. If you're in healthcare, whether you're a nurse, PA, NP, doctor, you know, allied health, PT, OT, it's a lot when you're new. Like when I became a nurse, gosh, 4 or 5 years ago, that was a big transition, but it's an even bigger transition, I'd argue, as a provider, where you're prescribing and diagnosing and treating, assessing, all of that. And I feel like I was very well prepared in my program, but being in such a specialty clinic, there's so, like, pretty much everything about my job I did not learn in school. Like the basic physiology, yes, but we do so much, so it's just like wacky and different, and I love it, but it's like just so new all the time, and I'm always asking a million questions and feel like I don't know what I'm doing. So that is getting better. I'm 4 months into my job, and I feel like I'm just now like, okay, like I kind of know what I'm doing. I know it's gonna take like a year or so probably to feel like minimally confident and competent, but I definitely am getting more confidence in like my decision making clinically and plans and stuff, and I'll still run things by my boss, of course. But yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question. If you guys have any like nurse practitioner questions or things, let me know. I'm trying to share more about that on Instagram, just kind of daily life. I know a lot of you guys, especially on Instagram, followed me for nursing school vlogs, nurse practitioner school, just like nursing life. And I feel like with pregnancy and being married and moving and YouTube, like I honestly, so much of my life is actually not nursing focused, even though it's my full-time job and like women's health and stuff. I just am passionate about so many other things as well, and faith and community and friendship and stuff, that I don't spend a lot of time thinking about like being a nurse practitioner besides like doing my life and job. But yeah, anyways, that's all to say. I used to share so much more about that, so I'm trying to like do snippets to kind of appeal to the different audiences I have. I feel like I'm in a weird spot with YouTube and Instagram growth, because my Instagram account has actually been a personal account. It's been like a nursing school blog account. That's where a lot of my followers came from. It was COVID era, and I was sharing a ton about like nursing school and eating disorder recovery and women's health, and that's not the stuff I really talk about very often anymore. It's more just like daily life. And then the other part of my followers are like people who follow me for like faith-based like blog type stuff, and then also just people I know in real life, like my friends. And so I have a kind of weird audience that I'm trying to figure out, because I'm really trying to grow on social media a lot this year, and that feels weird and like cringy to say out loud, but it's true. Like I have been doing social media on the side for a while, and I feel like I've learned a lot and like grown and become better, you know, better content and editing and stuff, and I really want to grow, and I feel like I actually have been growing this year, which is super fun. But in order to grow well, you have to really have a specific target audience in mind, like make content for them. And that's been hard for me, because my current audience is not the audience that I'm working towards cultivating. And that is tricky. And so I feel like what I'm working towards cultivating is more people who are like in honestly similar phase of life as me, like, you know, Christian women in their 20s to 30s who are, you know, either in healthcare or pregnant moms, just like women in my similar stage of life who are just trying to like live their lives joyfully and intentionally and like love Jesus and, I don't know, do their everyday life and like find purpose and joy and contentment in their lives and meaning, which is so vague, and I need to make that more specific. But that can look like everything from motherhood, pregnancy, job stuff, moving. I just feel like I've had so many life experiences that I want to share lessons from and just kind of be like your big sister comfort person online. And I just need to spend some more time being like more specific, because I just like, I'm not someone who wants to niche down and just do pregnancy content or just do nursing content or just do motherhood. Like I just care about so many different things, or like just women's health. Like I love all of those things. I want to talk about all of it. And so that is really, really hard when you're trying to grow on social media, to not have something like specific like that. So yeah, I feel like the people who follow my content and love the stuff that I share are here because they find commonalities with me and my life or personality or story, whether they've like had an eating disorder before, or are also pregnant, or are a nurse, or newly married, or like waited for marriage and really appreciated the boundary stuff that I shared, or they just had a big move. Like those are the people that I feel like I DM with often and talk to, and who like vote on my polls and submit questions and stuff. Like I feel like you guys know who you are. Like we chat and we are friends. I think we're friends at least. And so that's more of those relationships that I want to cultivate, but it's hard to pinpoint what people like. So anyways, I was gonna say this at the end of this video, just kind of like YouTube reflections, content creation, because I feel like you guys get the real stuff on YouTube. Like I don't talk like this on Instagram, because Instagram's not a long form platform. So y'all are getting the random reflections, and if you made it this far in the video, you are a real one. So you get to comment real one down below. I love seeing that. But yeah, if you are watching this and like paying attention to what I'm saying right now, if you want to just let me know like why you follow me, why you subscribed, why you watch this video, like what you enjoy and feel like connected to, I think that would really help me. So if you wouldn't mind just commenting that would be awesome. Because I don't want to be locked into, again, like just pregnancy, or I don't want to be like a Christian blogger girl, you know, like I want to do everything. And I also really want to talk, this is so silly, but about Disney. We have a big Disney trip coming up next week, or a week after next. And I love Disney. I love Disney content. I love Disney vlogs and just sharing fun Disney things, but not everyone likes Disney. And my current audience definitely is not like a Disney audience. And so I hope I don't shoot myself in the foot with all of the Disney content I want to share, but I want to share it. So I think I'm going to. So we're going to have a ton of Disney vlogs, Disney trip vlogs, packing, prepping, like actual footage of the trip, reels, like being pregnant in Disney World, fun snacks, outfits, rides, all the things. So that is my plan, and I hope to just like bring in more people who love Disney too, or like pregnant mamas who are going to Disney and give tips and stuff. So anyways, that was so random. So random. If you made it this far, I love you. You're great. Okay, last question that someone actually asked me, there's two. Back to Colorado stuff. That was very helpful for me to process with y'all. Thank you for letting me talk about that. Okay. Was it exhausting moving and making friends again? This person had one move after college and said it was hard enough for me. Very fair. I have moved, let's see, grew up in Texas, in Houston specifically, until I was 18. I moved to college to Nashville, Tennessee, and then I moved after college to North Carolina for nursing school, stayed there for about 5 years, yeah. And then moved again to Colorado. So I've moved, to college, to grad school, to big person job 3 times since, yeah, being an adult. We moved like houses once growing up. That was just down the street, so I don't really count that. It was good and hard, but I think not as hard as moving to college. I think was the hardest move for me because I was just in a really like weird, not healthy, insecure kind of stage of life when I was 18. I mean, that's like most of us when we're teenagers. Moving to North Carolina was also hard, but I went straight into a nursing school program and like had fast friendships that were made, like instant community. And moving out here was just different because I was married, so I was moving with Justin, my best friend, and that made it a lot easier because you just have your built-in best friend with you, like your literal life partner. And so it wasn't as hard, I think, as if I were moving by myself. I would probably have had to be a lot more intentional and like proactive and kind of planning about making friends. But again, like I mentioned with the church stuff, we really lucked out in not having to try very hard to make friends. That sounds bad. But we both like started in jobs here. He worked as a professor at a local university, and then I obviously started my nurse practitioner job. I had a couple months between moving and starting my job, like 2 months exactly, I think. Yeah, August to October. And so I like went to some events and like did Bumble BFF for a little bit, which kind of crashed and burned. But, you know, met some different people, coffee dates, all of that. Went to like this Christian social event and I met one of my friends, Megan, there, which was really sweet. She was my first friend here, and we've kept in touch pretty well. And then, yeah, it's really much been church. So like church community group, Bible study. I feel like Bible study has been like my favorite part and like favorite space that I've joined. It's like my Wednesday women's Bible study. It's honestly my favorite part of the week. I just love it so much. Having a female specific space is so nice. I feel like everyone needs that. Because in our community group, which I also love, it's like my second favorite thing of the week, is co-ed, which has also been amazing just to learn from other married couples and just share life and yeah, be in like a normal Christian co-ed space. It's been great, but I love having both. So both have been great for making friends. I mean, it's hard, right? Like we both came from North Carolina where we had 5+ years of friendships and like really deep friendships. But at the same time, I've always been a person that's had a lot of long distance friends. So even growing up, I had the camp friends, you know who you are, and then like long distance family, cousins that I was close with. Even in Nashville, like had friends from college or just in the Nashville area that I didn't go to college with, that I met, who became long distance friends when I moved to North Carolina. And so I've always just had that as a part of my life since I was like 12. I'm just very used to maintaining long distance friendships. And that's all to say I'm very comfortable with having like a handful of close friends in the city where I'm living, and I'm also having a pretty good handful of friends who are my long distance friends where we have, you know, monthly catch-ups, weekly catch-ups, you know, bi-monthly, whatever. And that's just been my normal kind of situation, like long distance, close friends. So I don't need like this big 10-20 person friend group here, but it has been hard because I had a lot of friends in Durham, like a lot of close friends and kind of, you know, like super close best friends, and then like close friends, and then kind of like acquaintances. I just had a lot of people in my life, and a lot of that was church, and like I said earlier, being in like that smaller church community and space. And we don't have that here. Like we're just not as known here, right? We literally just moved, and so having grace for oneself is really important, and just remembering that wherever you are, wherever you move to, it's not going to be the same as where you were before. Like, you're not in the same church, you're not in the same school, same job, same friend group. It's going to be different, and that's okay. And I think the soonest that you can let go of trying to make it the same, the better your experience will be. And I feel like we struggled with that a little bit in the early months, and I feel like at this point we are very much like, no, Colorado is a new season. You know, North Carolina was great, but we really feel like the Lord closed that door, and we don't feel like we're called to go back to North Carolina as a whole, or like our community is in like living there, which is hard because we've talked about it. We're like, we miss North Carolina, but we really feel like we are where God has us right now. So as much as you can let go of those like previous places, obviously don't like shut out those people from your life kind of thing. Like, keep up those friendships that matter to you and visit and all of that, but it's just not going to be the same, and that's hard. So I hope that's helpful. I know I've been yapping at you guys so much for probably an hour. I need to go edit or really upload this footage and just kind of see how long it is and trim it and stuff. But it's Saturday right now. I'm hoping to get this up on Sunday, tomorrow for you guys. The last question is actually from my friend Jenna. Speaking of long distance besties in North Carolina, she is actually in Denver this weekend. So Jenna, I haven't told you this, but I'm planning to have you on the vlog tomorrow. So I think we'll do like a weekend, February weekend vlog. Jenna is amazing, and she asked, how excited are you to see Jenna next week? And I'm very excited. So I can't wait to see you tomorrow morning. This will be up after I've already seen you. So anyways, we're gonna hang out, and if you guys have watched the vlogs for a long time, or like wedding content and stuff, you know who Jenna is. She did our wedding day vlog behind the scenes, which was like one of my favorite videos ever. So we love you, Jenna. You're a real one, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. So if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing, consider following me on Instagram, and commenting down below. I love talking to you guys. Truly my favorite thing about doing social media is meeting new people, connecting with you guys, especially those of y'all who have joined from just pregnancy content and told me that, you know, you're also pregnant, or my videos have been comforting to you. That truly makes like my year. I just love it so much. And yeah, please don't be shy or nervous to comment or anything. I would love to hear from you. So anyways, I've been talking. I'm gonna go get a snack and put on real people clothes for the day. But I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a lovely weekend.